It would appear that LEGO is trying to control the narrative when it comes to what we as consumers can receive as far as LEGO modulars, whether it comes to LEGO themselves or the Bricklink Designer Program. If you've seen any LEGO news in the last week, you're probably already aware of the Series 6 updates that will come into effect for Series 6 of the Bricklink Designer Program. And it begs the question, are these changes coming from the top from LEGO themselves, or is the Bricklink Designer Program internally choosing what rules and regulation changes can come about? If you've seen my channel at all, you probably are aware of this interview that I had with Alex, the program manager of the Bricklink Designer Program. And I'm kind of curious what he would have to say about these changes. So if you're interested in that, please leave a comment. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, because I could potentially have a conversation with him in the future about some of these changes. So if that interests you, let me know in the comments below. But as we get into some of these changes, I know that historically, Alex has told me that LEGO is very, very hands-off when it comes to Bricklink and the Bricklink Designer Program. While they do own Bricklink, like I mentioned, they haven't been very in the weeds with the operations of Bricklink. So that makes me think that I could see either way if these changes are from LEGO themselves or internally from Bricklink. But as we dig into this further, you might see some changes that are coming that are very interesting. Now, the first three are fascinating changes. They don't affect too much from what we've seen in the past with the Bricklink Designer Program, but I'm going to mention them nonetheless. Of course, avoid depicting harm to animals. I don't think this has been much of an issue at all. Maybe in some of the with animals in cages for some of the medieval castle sets, hunting, trapping, that could have been in some of the medieval sets. Avoid depicting wild animals in zoos, circuses, aquariums. The aquariums, of course, will certainly affect one of the submissions that we've seen in the past. One of the very contested decisions actually seemed to be a fan favorite. So it's interesting that we won't be getting those in the future, as LEGO is seeking to take, I would guess, a higher road and just not leaving any room or any opportunity for animal cruelty to be an issue, which, while I don't think it's been an issue in the past, is certainly understandable that they don't want this to be even close to being an issue moving forward. Now, lastly, as we all know that LEGO is trying to be more eco-friendly, more environmentally conscious, they are appearing to not want to have any sort of affiliation with fossil fuels like coal, oil, gas. Now, this does beg the question, which they have answered, that it's acceptable to showcase historical methods of transportation that rely on fossil fuels, like steam locomotives. Now, is this a little double-edged, a little two-faced in their decision? Maybe some could see it that way, but trains are just such a intertwined product when it comes to the LEGO community, when it comes to LEGO products, and when it comes to the Bricklink Designer Program. So it is not surprising in much of any way that they would want to keep trains. But in the future, will they not allow cars? Will they only allow EV, electric vehicles, to be submissions? I could see that being the case. Now, of course, we're getting into the interesting stuff here. Models may not be based off the following internal LEGO IP: Ninjago, Dreams, Friends, Monkey Kids, no surprises there. But lastly, we have the Icons modular format. Some of the interesting rules here that we can read: buildings are acceptable, and I want to stick on that first point for a little bit. Buildings are still acceptable, which is very, very pertinent, because if we go all the way back from Series 1 of the Bricklink Designer Program, back a couple months ago, up to a year ago for the first submissions, we can see buildings made up to exactly a third of the Bricklink Designer Program submissions for Series 1. And as we move through Series 2, 3, 4, 5, it really maintains that 1/3 level, even surpassing it for Series 3. And of course, Series 4, it drops to 25%, but still makes by and large the surpassing, not surprising, but a large amount of the Bricklink Designer Program series submissions. So for LEGO or for Bricklink to completely cut off buildings was never ever an option. But as we read some of the rules, it looks like they are obviously trying to remove any chance for modular type submissions to occur, which is kind of a shame. I don't think I like this change that they've made, but I'm curious, of course, to hear your comments below of what you think about this rule change. because this really gave us an opportunity for Lego, or I should say for Bricklink, to create modulars that we would never ever get from Lego themselves. And as we look over the history of the Bricklink Designer Program, the most recent modular is the train station, Brickcross train station itself, which is just a magnificently beautiful modular. And of course, it is a very stereotypical modular. It fits in with the other modulars very, very nicely. It's pretty enclosed, and it has the Technic pins on the side. So this one and then the Lego Modular Store were the two true Lego modulars from a historical Bricklink Designer Program series or invitational. So it's kind of a little surprising we've only gotten two in the history of the Bricklink Designer Program. But I also want to show you some modular sets. So I want you to keep these in mind as we look to other Lego modulars in the Bricklink Designer Program as we read on in the rule changes. So they essentially want them to not reflect the Lego modular format. They say if a building looks similar to the design language of the Icons modular subtheme, row style building, so if it fits in that kind of that road where you would put them side by side. If you have separating floors, which is of course very common in the Lego modular with every modular, they want to stay away from that as much as possible. They also say buildings should also not copy the Icons modular base plate. You cannot have 32 by 32 base plates, sidewalks with lamps, Technic connection points like we talked about before. Now, this last point, this last sentence scares me the most. Let's read it. When we review Bricklink Designer Program submissions, we will ask ourselves, could this model be confused as an Icons modular building? Now, this scares me the most because in my mind, this essentially gives the Bricklink Designer Program carte blanche to say, well, sorry, it kind of looks like an Icons modular, so we can't accept it. So going back to the Lego store themselves, here's a look at some of the other Icon modulars that we've gotten in the past. I want you to kind of soak those in, get an idea for what those look like. I'm sure most of you're already well aware of what those modular sets look like. Now I want to go back to Series 5, sort by buildings, and tell me if any of these sets you think they would have been disqualified. Well, right off the bat, this one right here has multi-levels, it's got sidewalks, it's got street lamps. This is a modular that would 110% get kicked out. Now this one, it's got kind of maybe not a proper base plate, 32 by 32, but it kind of looks like a modular aquarium. This would get kicked out. So we already all of a sudden are racking in all these submissions that would not be included or not be allowed to be included in Series 6 of the Bricklink Designer Program. Of course, this one here, very likely being kicked out. It's got the sidewalk, very modular style building. But I do have to say, taking a step back, the Bricklink Designer Program team is very, very understanding with their Lego sets and with their Bricklink Designer Program submissions. So if you have a set that you think might be too close to a modular, please still submit it. I am very confident that the Bricklink Designer team will work with you to get your set to a point to where it will not infringe upon the Icons modular format. But that being said, if you've enjoyed this video so far, please leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Leave a comment if you have any strong thoughts, strong opinions on this change for the Bricklink Designer Program. Like I said, I think this is kind of a shame because the Bricklink program gave us opportunities to have sets and modulars that we would never ever have before. But once again, it's all about what the community thinks. So I want to know what you think about this change. Leave your comment below. Look forward to interacting with you all there, and we'll see you in the next video.